Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Don Granato has been fired, head coach of the Buffalo Sabres. He has been relieved of his duties after serving the Sabres for 3.5 seasons. He has not led the Buffalo Sabres to the postseason, and he is coming off a campaign where the Sabres heavily underperformed in what has been a weak playoff chase. The Sabres finished this past season with a 39-37-6 record. They finished 6th in the Atlantic, only compiled 84 points, and they missed the playoffs for the 13th straight season. Head coach Don Granato has been fired. He is gone. The Sabres have let him, along with a couple of his assistants, go. Video coordinator Matt Smith and assistant coach Jason Christie. Interestingly, no news yet on the status of Matt Ellis. I'm sure we will get some clarity about that real soon. But Don Granato, as of a couple minutes ago, prior to this recording, has been fired by the Buffalo Sabres. Didn't expect that to happen so swiftly. He was supposed to have a press conference on Friday at 10 a.m., and then Kevin Adams, the general manager, was supposed to follow up right behind him, but I guess Don Granato won't be speaking to the media again. And, there have been some signs that Granato will go over the past couple of weeks. He's been very dodgy in questions. Usually he's been pretty upfront and honest with reporters post-games. But recently, a couple of the Sabres beat reporters have asked questions such as, what is his job security looking like going into the offseason? What is his plans with this team? Are there going to be massive changes or not? And most of the time, Granato kind of dodged the question, didn't really answer it, gave a very non-response. And I guess now we know why, because the Sabres must have told him a while ago that this is it for him, that he's over. It's not gonna happen anymore. The rodeo has been shut down. Everyone is going home now, and the Sabres are gonna have to find new rodeo organizers. But yeah, this is not a big news thing that is probably shocking to most of the hockey world. Don Granato has been the 6th longest head coach in the NHL, and he is the longest tenured head coach who has yet to make a playoff appearance for his team. And that's what Don Granato has been, and he was kind of more of a development coach, I suppose. But for the Sabres, this is another head coach to be hired and fired since the playoff drought began. Let's go back to the list. It's Ron Rolston, Dan Bielsma, Ted Nolan, Phil Housley, Ralph Krueger, and Don Granato. That is your 6th head coach to be hired and fired since Lindy Ruff was let go 13 years ago. And speaking of Lindy Ruff, that is a name who is being connected to the job now since he's been fired from the New Jersey Devils. Maybe the Sabres bring back Lindy Ruff, although his relationship with the Pegulas did not end all that great. So there'd have to be some, smoothing things out between those two parties. But as of right now, all that we know is that Don Granato has been fired. He is gone. The Sabres underperformed after missing the playoffs by 1 point in the 2022-23 season. And, there were expectations that the Sabres would make that final leap into the playoffs, but instead they worked themselves back a couple steps. The offense was gone. The defense was being masked by great goaltending from Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, and unfortunately for all parties involved, the Sabres only finished 2 games above 500 and missed the playoffs. Now, when you factor in the Sabres' overtime losses, the Sabres won 39-43 this season, so, I don't know how much that counts. I that's not really above 500, but hey, the Sabres had more regulation wins than regulation losses, so yay! Only the 2nd time that's happened in the drought. Woo! Oh, that's progress, folks. That's progress in terms of being mid. But yeah, the Sabres were just too mid this season. The scoring is totally evaporated, and, part of it is on Don Granato, part of it is on his inability to make fresh changes, specifically with the power play tactics. And let me just delve into that real quick, because the power play coach Matt Ellis and Don Granato have refused to make any changes, and had they just got a little more bump with the power play, this team probably would have made the playoffs, because this team was better 5-on-5 this year than it was last year. And they were significantly worse in the power play between last year to this year. They were better on the penalty kill last year to this year, and their goaltending also improved year over year. So the only thing that took a step backwards was the power play, and for a team that desperately needed all the goals they can get once the top six just couldn't put it in the back of the net, you needed that. You needed a little special teams bump. Look at a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning. They're not exactly 5-on-5 warriors. No, they have one of, I think, a top 3 power play and a top 3 penalty kill in the NHL this year. Same thing goes for the New York Rangers. Their metrics at 5-on-5 are not very impressive, but they've just won the President's Trophy because of elite special teams play. Now, I'm not saying that's the only determinant in who makes the playoffs and who doesn't, but it certainly is a big one. And your team cannot afford to take any steps back. And, that's exactly what the Sabres have done. And I mentioned a couple times already about how the top 6 forwards for the Buffalo Sabres took huge steps back. And let me just talk about that a little bit, because it's not been all on Don Granato. Dylan Cousins, Tage Thompson, Alex Tuch, Jeff Skinner, they've all not been performing all that great this season. Their goal totals all went down. Cousins only finished with 18 goals, Tuch 21, or is it just 20? Either way, really low. Tage Thompson had an injury-riddled season, only 56 points in 71 games for him. So it's just not been good enough. It's not been good enough whatsoever from your big boys. They all regressed massively this season. The only couple of players that looked like they took a step forward this season was JJ Peterka. He had a very good season for the Buffalo Sabres, and I think he's going to be a very dangerous winger for years to come for the Buffalo Sabres. I would also say that on a much more baby step, Owen Power, I liked his play towards the end of the season, outside of that one Toronto game where that was brutal. There was a couple mistakes still here and there that he's got to clean up, but he was good for the most part. And, of course, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen and Zach Benson. All of those guys took big steps forward for the Buffalo Sabres. Everyone else, nah. And it was clear that the Sabres needed not a development coach at times. They needed a guy that actually had a force behind the bench. And for Don Granato, this is probably going to go down for him as another Phil Housley-esque head coach that just lasted a couple more seasons longer. I'm glad that the Sabres finally got rid of the curse where they have a head coach for only 2 seasons, then kick him to the curb. No, for Granato, he survived 3 seasons, 3.5 seasons actually, so he had more than enough time to figure it out for the Buffalo Sabres. Rebuilds happen in much less time than what happened here. Now, in terms for Granato, did he leave Buffalo in better shape than when he found it? Yes. When he came to Buffalo, Ralph Krueger had really done a number on this team. They were putrid. Jack Eichel, Rasmus Ristolainen, and Sam Reinhart were all still in the lineup. Linus Ullmark as well. He needed to clean those situations up. He needed to go out and find new young forwards, develop them, and turn them into NHL-ready players. And he did that with the likes of Tage Thompson, Jack Quinn, JJ Peterka, Devin Levi, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power. The list goes on and on. So in terms of that, he was good. His national development team program, that experience did well in the initial stage of the Sabres rebuild. But it was clear that at this point in the rebuild, the Sabres need a different type of head coach, a playoff experienced head coach. They need a head coach that's been there, done that. And for Granado, he just doesn't have that sort of experience. He's much like his team growing into the role, and that's not good enough anymore. The Sabres needed to make the playoffs this year. They didn't. Don Granato, because of that, has been fired by the Buffalo Sabres. But folks, let me know what you think of this move by the Sabres in the comment section. Who do they go after next? I've been Don. This is Buffalo SportsCenter. Hope you like and subscribe, and hope to see all of you in the next video. Peace out.